Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well and fine and well on this lovely day today. My name is Matt. I'm going to be guiding you through the second webinar in the series of VAT Proficiency 2025. So today is, as you can see in front of you, VAT Return, Step 1 and 2. Prepare and reconcile with ease. Emphasize the word ease there, because once you've seen this in action, you could be saying to yourself, yeah, I've got the confidence now. It's quite easy when I think about it. But again, if it is something that you've never done before, it's going to be quite daunting. I appreciate that. So we're going to be going through the steps today. And as I say, this is session 2. And to prepare and reconcile with these, the rest of the sessions are going to be following on in our, if you go to sage.co.uk/webinars, you'll see the schedule there. Sign up for them. Remember, you have to attend 5 out of the 7 sessions, and you must attend the quiz with Michael and myself at the end in order to get that lovely badge you can see in front of you. And you'll be able to display that on your LinkedIn for all to see. You can even attach it to your CVs, your emails. It is an incredible badge at the end of the day. So display it where you want. My suggestion is always going to be LinkedIn. It's good to have other people and other professionals know what you're experiencing. So what are we going to be looking at today? What does it entail? Well, obviously an introduction, which we're covering, and then it's going to be a demonstration of the VAT return wizard. So we're going to prepare a VAT return and we're going to reconcile the VAT return. It's best in these instances to always have a demonstration that you can potentially click along with in your demo data, or if you've got practice data, you can click along in that as well. I wouldn't recommend practicing this in your live data unless you've taken a backup. So, demo or practice are the way forward, but we're going to be doing the demonstration for you. And then after that, we're going to be looking at some further support and any questions that you've got. Now, on the subject of questions, let's go through the rules of the day. So this is the housekeeping rules. If you've been here before, you'll know them, but your microphone is muted automatically. So if you cough or sneeze, we're not going to hear you, don't worry, and there'll be no interjecting, and I won't be distracted. You can download a copy of today's slides, the key important ones. They've also got links in there to help center articles and other bits of information that you might find useful. We've put black and white on there in case you're like me, you like to print them off and write on things. But there's also the color version, which you can just keep on your desktop, essentially. Send us your questions throughout this webinar. Now, we are joined by the wonderful Abby and the wonderful Michael. Big Sage Brains, they'll be here to answer any questions that you do have during this session. So keep them busy. Don't give them a chance to swig on their tea, let it go cold, and fire in your questions. They will prioritize questions on the VAT wizard itself first. Anything else will be potentially dealt with afterwards via email direct to you. So hopefully that covers that. First things first, though, demonstration. We are going to be looking at how to prepare. Now, the reason I've got a slide here is just to take 30 seconds. Top tip, bit of advice. Because you potentially only do this once every quarter, or whatever your VAT return period is, what you may want to do is collate a Word document and include the steps in. First option is download the handout, but if you misplace it, it gets deleted from your desktop, etc. Have a little Word document open and go through the steps. And maybe during this webinar, write down little notes, little tidbits of advice that you've liked, and then you can name that VAT return, and you'll always be able to revert back to that if you need any further advice. Then we're going to be looking at preparing the VAT return and reconciling it nice and easy. Now, there are going to be differences depending on where you're submitting your VAT return from. So with UK and HMRC, you'll see what's on the left-hand side when you access your VAT module. In Ireland, for ROS, you will be looking at what's on the right-hand side there. So some subtle differences. So if we look at the left first, you've got scale charges, VAT return, EC sales, EU reverse charge. On the right-hand side for Ireland, you've got the VAT return, VIS or VIS return, VIAS, and you've got your RTD there as well. So there is going to be subtle differences between the two softwares during this, but don't worry, there's some slides attached to the handout, and we'll go through them at the end of the demonstration as well, just so you can see those differences for whomever that may benefit. It's not vital, obviously, if you're very familiar with the process itself. So let's go straight into the demonstration. I'm going to open up my Sage 50 accounts here. Should be able to see that in front of you. So I am using a VAT return company. It's a demonstration company. Again, if you want to open your demonstration data file, open demo data. You can practice this in there. Demonstration data can be broken as much as you want. It's irrelevant, it's nobody's data whatsoever. It's brilliant for practicing processes before you do anything. What we're going to do first today, though, is we're going to concentrate on the VAT section. So left-hand side, VAT. This opens up your VAT module, and in front you'll see a list of potentially VAT returns that you've done. If you haven't done any, this will be blank. But just to explain it to you, this is where the VAT returns are held. In Ireland, you'll also be able to see your VEES return, RTD, and your return of trading details. So not just VAT returns there for Ireland. In the UK, you might also see your ECC returns, but they tend to be more obsolete now since Brexit. So you may not see them, but you might see legacy ones if they're there. So it tells you what it is, VAT return here, the period in which you've run it. Obviously, that's important for you if you're going to be checking on what's been run, the amount, the status, if it has been pending or submitted. So if it has been submitted to HMRC or to Ross, that'll be listed in this column here. And if it's been paid, and if the VAT has been transferred. More on that in the follow-up webinar to this one, VAT Return 3. I'll be telling you what these two columns kind of entail. We're going to be concentrating on the first two parts though today. So what we want to do first off is we want to click on VAT Return. Now, eagle-eyed amongst you might notice this has already been completed. We're at stage 3 already. This is a huge call driver that we get for the technicians. And the reason for this, again, you may have spotted it, is because I have in the background here highlighted the VAT return. And when I highlight a VAT return and click VAT return, it will open up that VAT return that's been done previously. Easiest way to solve that problem is close out of it, swap and clear, swap and clear. What that basically does, swap highlights everything that hasn't been highlighted, and clear removes what's been highlighted, essentially gets rid of that highlighting aspect. Now we have nothing highlighted whatsoever. We can click on VAT return, and this is a nice blank VAT return for us to work off. I'm going to go through this in stages for you now. So again, some of it you may think, well, I already knew that, or it's quite obvious, but again, this is a breakdown of what the VAT wizard does. So we've opened up our lovely fresh blank VAT return. What we want to do first off is back up. Always back up. So essentially, once you've done a VAT reconciliation, as it says here, you cannot reverse that. If you were to calculate and close, it wouldn't save the VAT return. But if you are to reconcile, there is no going back from that. You have to manually pick apart everything that you do there. So the best bit of advice, and you'll hear me say it throughout webinars that I hold, is back up before you do any major processing whatsoever. As you see, last time I backed up here quite notably was the 26th of February 2025. That's not very good. So I'm going to quickly run a backup now. And what I would do in that backup is I would just use the data files. Maybe save this to pre-reconciliation or something along those lines and just click OK. Obviously, I want to check the data because what we don't want is any errors in the data that may confuse numbers. My data's come back absolutely fine there because it's a small data set. And as you can see, my backup has been successful. So I have now created that insurance policy, that saved point that I can return to if I'm not happy with anything over the next 2 screens. Job's done. Nothing to worry about now. If you've got a large data set and it takes you a while to do a backup, then yeah, maybe go and bring yourself a cup of tea before you do anything. But that's all that done. Most important part, backup. Now, second important part, date range. So self-explanatory again, I know, but you can run through the dates in which you want to run your VAT return. Now, this is quite an old VAT return I'm going to be running. And as you can see, my last period ended the 31st of December 2023. So this one is going to be January 2024. And my period is going to be a 3 months one. So I would simply change the drop down to what I need it to be. And Sage quite handily tells me below 3-month period there. The other option is if you just want to check your VAT liability for a certain period in time, you could use a custom date range and just go from the calendar date to the calendar date. So if I wanted to check it for January 2024, I would essentially just select January 2024. There you go, 1 month. When I click calculate, it'll calculate my VAT liability for that period in time. It will not reconcile unless I tell it to. So you can take a glimpse of what your liability is going to be there. For this instance, though, again, I'm just going to use whole months just to keep things simple for the demonstration. And we're going to go Jan, March, because that's the period in which we lie. Now, this little box here is another kind of big question that we always get asked. What does that do? What's it for? Now, when you're running a VAT return, you shouldn't really ever need to put a tick in this box. Now, this box, essentially, if you were to reconcile an error, and let's say I only reconciled from Jan to Feb in this instance, and I left out March. Rookie mistake, I know, but let's say I did. I would rerun the VAT return and include March and also include previously reconciled transactions within that period. But that can be problematic because if there's late postings or amendments, they are now going to be included in this VAT return and all the numbers aren't going to really add up, and it'll take some thorough investigation in order to fix and see exactly what went wrong and how. The only time really that you should be putting a tick in this box is if you've been advised to by a technician. We have fed that back before, but yes, if you have the necessity or the need to put a tick in this box, something has probably gone wrong somewhere. In that instance, it's best to restore the backup that you took up here. Just go back to before it all began and do it again. It's a lot easier just to start from step one with a backup you're happy with than it is to try and trace the breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel as to what went wrong and why the figures aren't right. Trust me on that one. As a former tech, it is a big call. But yes, so this button here, tend to ignore it unless you've spoken to a technician and they advise you to do it, and they will guide you through the process on that. Next, what do we have? VAT verifications. I apologize for saying VAT there. Sometimes it slips out. VAT verification settings. So these are basically checks that are run automatically to analyze the transactions that you're keying in. By clicking on that settings button, I get to select what Sage is going to verify for me. Now, I will say this and bullet point it. This isn't telling you that there's something wrong with your data. This isn't Sage turning around and saying, yeah, this is incorrect. This is you asking it to check things and potentially flag things that you might want to investigate a wee bit. So, for example, duplicate entries right at the top there. If you run a subscription service in your business and everybody is paying £5 a month for an e-magazine that you email out to them, if you are to have that ticked and run the VAT return and calculate it, it's going to flag transactions that look identical, like look duplicate transactions. So you may end up with, depending on how many customers have subscribed to it, 500 different transactions that are all the same. So in that specific instance, you might want to untick that button. Therefore, then when you calculate your VAT return, it's not going to pick up those duplicate transactions. However, that obviously does leave the door open to if there is any genuine duplicate transactions. But again, it's there to help. So it's up to you to decide if you want that ticked or not. With this whole section here, Abby's got a webinar dedicated to it on Monday, solely for VAT verification settings. So I'm not going to dive into the ins and outs of it, just give you a glimpse really of what is possible. So again, if you've got a tax code, most popular one is T1, it's 20%. If you get tax codes of like T7, T8, T9, it will flag these up for you and say, hang on a minute, do you want to have a look at these to make sure the tax code has been input correctly? And again, it's just Sage saying, you might want to investigate this. Not that something definitely is wrong. It is a menu at the end of the day, so you can have no VAT verification settings. You can have all, you can have a mix and match of them. During the demonstration, you'll see where these come to life. So these are essentially the menus over with on the left-hand side here that you've got. On the right-hand side, you've got what the VAT boxes are going to look like on the return itself. Obviously blank now because we haven't calculated anything. When I click calculate, again, there's no harm in doing this. It's going to run through all my numbers in that date frame there that we've set, and it's going to come back with essentially what the VAT return is going to look like. But using the verification settings, it's picked up these transactions here. Now, again, another popular call that we get is usually people have lists. Now, this essentially is transactions that are unreconciled but have been found in that period. So, for example, these two transactions here are late entries that have been put into that period of time after VAT has been run. This one here has been the VAT transactions that has been reconciled but then altered. So this one is to be included on this VAT return upcoming. Theoretically, you should have nothing in this box really other than anything that you're pleased with, anything other that you think is correct. Now, to investigate these transactions, it may seem like a bit of a pain. You might kind of think, oh, I've got to close out of here, ignore that, go to my transactions and do a bit of investigating. Well, you don't. You can click to Excel. Now, by sending this to Excel, you're creating yourself a list here, which I shall show you, of all the transactions that need investigating. The transaction number, its type, the date, and also the rest of the details that you saw on the screen there. So what you can do here is you can use this list. You can then close out of your VAT return. All data will be lost. And then you'll be able to go to your transactions list, and using your Excel spreadsheet, you can investigate these transactions. So transactions 2381 is the top there, as you can see. If I move this list down, 2381, is that correct? Should I be including this on that transaction? Yes, I should be. And this is down to me knowing my numbers. There's no definitive answer for that. You yourself will know it should be included or not. If it doesn't need to be included, then obviously deal with it by correcting that transaction. But that is essentially how you would get rid of that list. And it can be quite an exhaustive list if you've clicked ignore for a couple of years, and I've seen it happen before. And if it is an exhaustive list, then it's just going to take that wee bit of time at the start just to correct it. Because in theory, you should have nothing there that is incorrect. Everything should be included. So again, I'm just quickly opening the VAT return and getting back to the point that we were at. So calculating VAT, there we have that list again. So once I've done my investigating, and I'm perfectly happy, yes, these are correct now, they should be in. What you can't do is accept them all individually and include them all individually. It's all or nothing, which is why I guided you through that process. So I'm happy that these exist and that they should be in the tax period that I'm running. I'll click include. There we go. And now we've got verification results at the top here. If I click on view results, it's going to bring up potential verification issues. Now, again, not to hammer the point home, but these are not saying this is a mistake. It's saying, do you want to have a look at this? Because the verification settings that we set at the start, these have gone against them. These have been flagged as transactions to be investigated. So what I will do is I will click on view, and it's brought up an invoice. That has not been updated. It's up to me then to investigate. Should that have been included? Should it not have been updated? If there's a long list, again, you can click that to Excel button. The same again for this purchase order here. I'll click view, and if there's a long list, I'll send it to Excel, and I'll go back and I'll investigate to see if that should be included. There's a lot of reasons why things might pop up in your verification settings. This is why they're there and why they've been set up. And it's just for you to view and investigate. So again, to Excel if needs be. If I'm happy, which for the sake of this demonstration I am, because it's not a corrections webinar today, so obviously it's a perfect world, and I am happy that all these transactions are correct, invoices, etc., then I'm just going to close. There's no harm in it. Sage has asked me to investigate, I have investigated, and I'm okay. So what we've essentially done there is we've viewed the verification results and we agreed that everything is correct. The next section down here is all about making adjustments. Okay, so if you wanted to make an adjustment to the VAT return after you've had a look at the numbers on the right-hand side, this is where you would make it. So let's say you've received an email from HMRC and they say, right, we need the £100 adjustment plus £100 in box 1. Then this is where you can do it. So you've got the adjustments box here, box 1's here, and you would click on that pencil. It would open this box. Now, what I would put here is the reference for the change. And this, I'm just going to put HMRC instruction. And unfortunately, I'm going to tab along, and unfortunately it's plus 100. But if it was to take it off, I could always put a minus figure there, right at the start. Now I know what that's all about from the reason. I would click save, and you can see the adjustment is there. Calculated here, the adjustment value, and then the reported value, which we're sending back across. When I close it, what I could do is I could add an attachment. So if it was an email, maybe a screenshot of the email. If it was a letter, maybe scan the letter and put a copy of it in the attachment section here. These attachments do not get sent to ROS or to HMRC. Okay, these are for your records and your records only. And you can attach them at a later date if you haven't got them at hand right now. That's fine, don't worry. But the important part is to make the adjustments you need to make. If the adjustment is for a transaction that is incorrect, FYI, then potentially the quickest way to deal with that is to cancel out of this screen, make an adjustment to that transaction in your transactions module, then rerun the calculation, rather than creating more steps in your process for your audit trail. But that's essentially where you would make the adjustments. You've then got the reports. So when you click on your print VAT return here, it gives you a lot of options. Which reports do you want to see? Again, that Word document, if you create a folder for VAT return, what you could do is select every single report here and click run. You may not need them, but it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them, in my opinion, when it comes to reports. It doesn't take too long for them to calculate depending on the data size. Once they've all calculated, as you can see, it's running through them now. What I would potentially do is save all of them to that folder. So if you ever need to revisit these reports for whatever reason, it's going to be a lot easier for you to go into VAT return Jan 2024, and they're all there. Nice and quick, rather than having to look around for things, essentially. So that's what I would do there. Same goes for your reconciliation reports. You basically decide in this area here what reports you want to look at. I've favorited a couple because they're the ones that I generally want to look at. So when I press on the reconciliation reports button, my favorites are already going to be available for me there. But again, just select the ones that you need and you can tuck them away in that folder at the same time. Nice and simple. Again, it's all about audit trail and keeping things nice and crystal clear for you. If you create that folder on your desktop where you can just tidy these bits of files and folders and your Word documents into, it's going to be easy accessible for you if ever needed, if ever called upon. Then on the right-hand side, what we've got here is the ability to drill down into the VAT return to see how is it made up. If I'm not happy with these figures here, do I have to close out of this? Do I have to go into transactions? Do I have to have a look at each individual one? The answer is quite simply no. Click on the drill down button here. It'll take you into box 1 and what's been input. So you can see a lot of T1 has been entered here. And if I wanted a further breakdown, I would double click on T1. And it gives me a further breakdown of what's tucked in there. The dates, the sales, the amounts, the nominal codes, or the account, sorry, all of that is tucked into there. Again, if anything needs investigated, to Excel. And you can do that throughout these drill down boxes, apart from obviously the totals one. You'll go through here, and this is, I believe I clicked on box 4 there. Yes, I did, just double checking. And again, I'm going to click into T1 to see what information is going to be available for me there, or I could click into T5 and see what information is available for me there. This is all just here, so you've got these at hand. Good question from Tracy there, came in, says, are the reports available once the VAT is reconciled and submitted? Correct, they are. Absolutely are, yeah. The reason I would say to put them in a folder on your desktop is just so you've got an easy access to them. If you haven't got access to Sage at that moment in time, you've got a laptop in an area that you can't connect to the internet or what have you, you've got them there. Just another place to store them. They don't take up too much room on your hard drive. But you could most certainly run them in the program as well. So again, just to label the point, I can click on any box, drill down, and go into the T codes here to see what's been entered where. If there's anything else that I think is incorrect, guess what I would do? Before reconciliation, before it's not reversible, close out of this, investigate that transaction, fix what needs to be fixed, then rerun and recalculate your VAT. Once we click this button, again, I've said it a few times now, and Sage is mentioning it in writing quite a lot, you cannot reverse the process, so make sure you've taken that back up. But for the sake of the demonstration, I'm happy with everything that's in these windows, with the adjustments that have been made. Everything's golden. So what I'm going to do is click Reconcile VAT. If you have done an adjustment like I have, you will see this screen. So we've made an adjustment. Do you want to put an attachment on? I did say that there was other times you'd be able to put that attachment on. This is one of them. I'm going to click no because I still don't have access to it, for example. And this is now warning me again. You're going to flag the transactions as VAT reconciled in your transactions window. Okay. You can't reverse that VAT reconciliation process. Take a backup. Do a wish to continue. Yes. Just emphasizing the importance again. Depending on how many transactions you've got, this could take a couple of minutes with me again for the demonstration, and the sake of you all not sat there tapping your pens, waiting for things to be loaded. It's complete. And this is where you will see the VAT return pre-submission. It's now all been reconciled and done and dusted. I'm not going to go over this in detail because, again, I'm going to go through this in detail tomorrow, but just to give you a whistle-stop tour, you've got the buttons on the left-hand side here, the boxes, sorry, of the VAT return. You've also got your options on the right, VAT transfer, submit for MTD, record payment, and you've got your attachments again that you can still add attachments to at this stage. Now, because it's been reconciled, when I close out of this window, it now appears in the list, VAT return 6. It says pending, paid N, and VAT transferred N. These are going to be covered off tomorrow in tomorrow's webinar. But this is essentially your VAT return now, and if you were to double click in it, it will bring up the same detail. So you can revisit it. So have no fear, you can get back into it. Now, just to double check, what you can do is you can go to your transactions, and you've got a column here. And it says VAT, VAT reconciled, essentially. R is for reconciled. And then I've got 6, and it tells me what VAT return it's on. And that'll cover the VAT period that we just ran that for. So that's another way you can double check, just to see if a transaction has been VAT reconciled and when was it done, and the user it was done by, which in this instance, me, manager. So that is essentially what we've been running through today. You're going to get a wee bit of time back. We're going to go back to the slides momentarily, but it's quite a simple process once you've done it. And like I say, if you practice this in your demonstration data or your practice data, you're going to give yourself a little bit more confidence to do it in your live data as well, especially if you're using practice data, because practice data will use a copy of your live data. It won't use the live data itself, and it won't submit to HMRC because it's not connected, but you'll be able to see what the numbers are going to look like. So you may want to do your investigations in that. And if you need information on practice data, we've got a webinar, sage.co.uk/webinars on the uses of demonstration data and practice data, which a lot of people have found very helpful because it's kind of unlocked a different way to run processes before you do any submissions or anything like that in your live data. So I would highly recommend having a look at that as well. So back to the slides then. Preparing the VAT return, these are the differences that I mentioned at the start. If you do have any questions, keep them coming in while I'm going through this section. We've got Abby and Michael, and I believe we've been joined by Tina as well, potentially. But yeah, ask any questions that you can. So the differences with the UK and Ireland, as you can see on the right-hand side, the Irish return has a lot more boxes, essentially, with information in. It's going to be the same for your VAT verification settings. Mainly, I'm going to highlight here 21 and 24%, the VAT rate, the verification settings, and also the less than 18 and 21%, and also your tax code most commonly used, because different tax codes are used in both nations there. So be mindful, if you're doing returns for both UK and Ireland, these are the differences that you're going to see on those returns. Reconciling the VAT return, again, the major difference is more boxes for Ireland there, with different information in. Completing the VAT return, again, you have slight differences there. I'm going to be going through these in a lot of detail tomorrow, but again, just for your records, there's a slide there demonstrating what the different screens will look like. Left-hand side, you've got the UK version with less boxes, right-hand side, more boxes, and a couple of different options on the right-hand side as well. But what we do have is help and support, like you wouldn't believe. So if you go to Help Center, manage your VAT, or if you download the slides, click on one of these two buttons. But you'll see a tile there that says Manage your VAT. There's a lot of information there to help you through these processes and guide you through them. I'm going to have a quick look at the questions. I think the guys have been absolutely all over them, which is brilliant. It's a quick question that Michael's already answered there for Tracy. I'll just quickly show you. The question was, can you just remind us where the practice data is found? So File, Open Practice Data. I'm not going to go through that process now because it would be a separate webinar, which it actually is already. But you would essentially restore a backup of your live data into practice data. Okay, and then you could practice running that VAT return. Remember, you can't submit it from there at all, but you can see what things are going to look like. And it gives you that confidence to know, yes, I've done it right in practice data, therefore I'll just follow the same steps in my live data. It's nice and easy. So just while we wait for more questions to come through, let you know about the training and the one-to-one bespoke training that we've got back now, back by popular demand. So you can be one-to-one coached. You know, maybe a team could be coached at the same time on areas of the program that you're not so confident in. So instead of coming to a webinar potentially, or as well as a webinar, you can get one of our tech guys who call you directly on a Teams call, log into your PC, guide you through the processes, show you potentially how you should be processing for your company, maybe better ways, tips and tricks that are more personal to you than a kind of generic webinar. So it's a brilliant tool to use. So if you're interested in that, there is an email address at the bottom. Send your email in and somebody will get in touch with you with a quote on that one. But like I say, if you're using stock control, any CIS, construction industry, anything like that at all, they'll be able to guide you through those processes. Put your mind at ease if you do have any issues with them. I think that's all the questions answered. Brilliant, superb. So what's left for me to do now is to thank you for your attendance today. Hopefully we'll see you the remainder. And remember, you have to attend 5 out of the 7 in this series in order to unlock that badge, as well as attending the quiz with Michael and myself. And we are running that quiz twice, so if you can't attend the first one, you'll be able to attend the second one. We do slightly change the answers, because obviously if you're going to attend both, we don't want you getting 100%. We're not that kind. But if you could fill in the survey after the webinar is concluded, let us know your thoughts on what we've done today, any subjects that you want covered in the future, or any badges that you want put on in the future, any ideas. We read absolutely every single comment that you send in, and it's good to get some ideas on what you guys want. So if you could complete that for me, that would be a brilliant favor. Other than that, I'm going to give you 10 minutes back of your time, so go and get yourself a cup of tea or coffee, and hopefully we shall see you soon. Oh, before I go, actually, there's a quick question just come in there. Can we submit direct to HMRC MTD from here? You can, correct, you can indeed. And you need to enable that within your software. We have a standalone webinar, I believe, on that coming. I believe, I'm just going to find this for you now. This is me going off memory. Going to company preferences. Most important thing is here, that button there. Enable making tax digital for VAT submissions, and this is where you complete all your VAT submission information. Good question, Gemma. Just before we were closing the door there. So if you are going to be MTD ready, you need to make sure this is all completed. Superb. I shall leave you to it. If you need anything else, then just get in touch. Speak soon. Bye for now.